Patrick. Thank you for joining us today. To start with, could you tell us something about your background? Growing up, what representations of queerness were visible to you, were available to you, around you in society and also in popular culture?
Thank you, Ranjana, for giving me this opportunity. Yes, about my background, I was born and raised in Hong Kong. Subsequently, I went to studies in Canada. And when I finished my studies and returned to Hong Kong, I remembered in those days, it was still very much underground. You know, being gay is something that you hide in the closet. There were some social organizations like 10% Club or Pink Triangle, and I engaged with them more in a social way, you know, to meet friends, you know, to learn more about the queer community. But I also remember one particular incident, which was my first participation with so-called gay activism. In 1991, Hong Kong finally changed the law. But before that, there was a lot of like debates and investigation. And there was some legislative council member, you know, the legislators of Hong Kong, and they wanted to speak to some, you know, gay people to find out how they feel about this outdated law. And I was one of the people invited to talk to them, and it was a great experience. And I'm so happy that eventually, it took a few years later, that they would finally come around and change the law. But that was really my first participation. And since then, I have tried to support the best way I can in various LGBTQ community activities, from fundraising for HIV patients, you know, or AIDS concern, or like participating in Gay Parade or Pink Alliance and so on and so forth. And I mean, our city has come a long way, you know, although we still have a lot to strive for. I'm very happy to see that we have really a much better environment, you know, better social acceptance, and certainly more legal protection, you know, from spousal visa to taxation benefits, you know, to even public housing. But still a long way to go. You know, we still do not have an anti-discrimination law, which is something we need to strive for.
I want to go to our next question, but also I think I'd like you to go into a little more detail about what you saw around you in terms of queerness. Was there anything in popular culture? You've spoken about the social scene, the political scene, but popular culture, what were you seeing around you, and did that reflect your reality?
As I said, you know, the early days was very much underground. And even with my family, you know, it was very hard to come out to them. I was actually sent by my mother to see a psychiatrist, and not in Hong Kong because she was so afraid that people would find out that her son is gay. I was sent to an overseas clinic. But of course, it all went out well because I was frank with the doctor, and he said, you know, eventually the doctor told my mother that your son is very well adjusted, has nothing to worry about. People think that I did the wrong thing by complying to my mother's will, but I think I did actually the right thing. Instead of me arguing with her, you know, I have a doctor to tell her that, you know, your son is okay. But imagine going from that kind of environment, that is such a shame to be gay, to the days in like the late 90s, I think, when I saw a famous Hong Kong pop star, Leslie Cheung. He appeared on a TV talk show called Celebrity Talks. You know, he just casually mentioned about him and his lover. And that was such a revelation to me, because in those days, people still try to hide their sexuality. And yet we have someone who's famous and well-established and well-respected, feeling very free and comfortable about their sexuality. And I believe that instance has somehow led to me doing collection and doing exhibition, you know, which is what I do now, because I think there's a duty for all of us, you know, to raise visibility and hopefully respect for the LGBTQ community.
How did you start collecting art, and how did the Sunpride Foundation come about?
Well, I have two passions, Ranjana. The first one is, of course, to support the gay community. And the second one is in contemporary art. My partner, you know, and I travel a lot. And as I always say to him, I said, Sean, the name of my partner, I said, Sean, the mountains and lakes can wait. They will always be there. But if you miss an exhibition, you probably won't see it again. So that's why we keep repeating our visits to like Guggenheim or Tate or Pompidou, or MoMA, MoCA. And we had a really inspiring journey over the last 10, 15 years. And then when one day I started thinking seriously about collection, I said, why don't I merge my two passions together, which is like art and support for the gay community. And that's how this like focus come about, that we started to collect queer Asian art. And I also remember one incident, this is someone I look up upon and think of as my mentor, Dr. Uli Sik. Dr. Uli Sik is a family friend, and he's a very important collector. And he has donated more than 1,500 works, which form the foundation of M+. And I asked Uli to dinner one day, and to see if he could teach me something, guide me in terms of collection. And Uli very graciously gave me a lot of advice. He said, Patrick, what are you doing this for? I suppose the question not asked is that a lot of people would collect art as investment, right? And which is not what I'm doing this for. And I told Uli that I see this art collection as one way to support, the gay movement. Just like there are people who can write, who would do novels or articles, and there are people who could act and make movies. And I think art collection is one way of the many ways to support gay community. So Uli gave me some really useful advice, and one of which is that, Patrick, you should collect and you should try to exhibit. It's no use hiding them in your office or in your home. You need to show them to the world. After all, what we're talking about is visibility. So from very early days, we collect to exhibit. And I believe we did it in a very focused and systematic way. Sunpride Foundation was established in 2014, 10 years ago. And we collected art in two areas. We would have queer artists, of course, and we also have straight artists doing queer themed work. And as I mentioned, we collect for exhibition. And I think we've been very lucky, that we have organized 3 large-scale exhibitions. The first one in Taiwan, at the Museum of Contemporary Arts in Taipei. That was in 2017. And then the second iteration was in Bangkok Art and Culture Center. And just recently, we finished the last one in Hong Kong at Taikun. And I'm very happy to say that these exhibitions are very well received. And I believe that, we are doing the right thing.
There are so many art collectors who collect work, but you don't necessarily see that work publicly. That work goes into a temperature-controlled storage locker, for instance. But you've always collected with the intention of exhibiting your work. And it's also been very significant for you to do this in a way where the work is accessible to a large number of people. For instance, you've collaborated with public institutions to do the Spectrosynthesis exhibitions. So could you tell us a little more about that, why that was significant for you to work with public institutions?
You asked a very key question, about accessibility. But before we go into that, let me explain a little bit about the name, Spectrosynthesis, which is quite a mouthful. It's comprised of 2 words, a spectrum, which represents diversity, as in the colors of the rainbow, and photosynthesis, which is how plants convert sunlight into energy. And the concept behind this is that if one source of energy can nourish everything in the world, we hope that a more diverse range of light, could lead to a better, stronger, and healthier world for everyone. So yes, accessibility. We want to do these exhibitions not just to speak to the queer community. In fact, we want to go beyond our echo chamber and talk to the general public, and which is why public institution plays a key role in our exhibitions. As I mentioned, MoCA Taipei, and also BACC in Bangkok, as well as Daegun. These are all centrally located, well-respected public institutions. The footfall have been amazing, and we see a lot of people who would probably not go to a queer art exhibition, but they were there. They probably go, take their family on a Sunday to a public institution, and it happened to be something, with a queer theme, and they are more open-minded. And one of the things I love to do is to do these tour for friends or guests, and I would typically start with say 5 to 10 people, and it would almost always end up with a group of 30 or 50 people, and the general would just come gather around and to hear what I have to share, the stories I have to share with them. And often they would ask these really strange questions, from how did you become gay, and is queer something trendy? Are you trying to promote unnatural sex? Are you trying to corrupt our young kids? So on and so forth. But the thing is, rather than see it as being ridiculous or naive, I actually appreciate their courage in asking something that might have bothered them for a long time. And as I said, these are people, who are not acquainted with the queer culture. And they're here and they want to understand a little bit more. And I think our show provides a kind of platform. So I try to be patient and answer the question the best way I can. And that was a great way to, as I said, to talk to the general public.
You often emphasize that art is a less confrontational way of opening a dialogue with people. So was this a way of doing that? And could you also talk about that with examples, with reference to examples from your collection?
Definitely. I think art is less confrontational. Look at this one. This is an artist, also a friend, Christopher Zhang, who painted this beautiful painting showing him and his partner dressed up in this costumes of the prince consorts, basically two men in opera marrying. And because this is such a beautiful painting, it really blurs the line between stylistic and literal interpretation. And I remember one friend, not one guest, mentioning to me that he was one of those people who joined my tour, and he said, Mr. Sun, normally I would find it quite offensive when I see two men holding hands, but when I look at this picture, I'm quite comfortable. So maybe that's a stylistic interpretation. Maybe this is art. And this is one of the painting that which is very well received. This is an art form that the audience are familiar with, and it shows them something different, and they are quite ready to embrace the difference. And this one is a little bit more complicated to explain. It's actually a video by a famous artist in Hong Kong, Alan Bao, who show the work of two famous female opera performers. These two performers are like household names. We were brought up with them, and we've always accepted them. They're both female, and yet one plays the male role in movies and opera. And this is a video that reminds people that it's not that difficult to embrace, same-sex relationship. You've known them all your life, and you've accepted their love on and off stage. So again, we have an example of how art can be less abrasive, I hope, in bringing people to understand different things.
In recent years, several Asian countries, especially those with a history of colonization, have worked to repeal discriminatory laws against LGBTQ people. How do you view your work in relation to the gay rights movement in Asia?
Well, social issues do not get changed by one person or one act. I think it's a concerted effort. And I believe everyone has a part to play, rather than complaining or feeling sad, you should do something about it. And I certainly hope that our exhibition have contributed in some small ways to the general gay movement, but I think we're just like one cog in the wheel. And in fact, I rather see in the other light that we've been lucky that our exhibitions have happened in a timely fashion. The first exhibition in Taiwan was in 2017 when there were heated debate about same-sex marriage. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding this issue. And when our exhibition opened, everyone was so worried that there will be people coming, to sabotage the show or throw eggs at our painting and all that. But at the end, they came. There was a busload of people who believed that what we do is wrong. But they came peacefully. They give pamphlets, and I think that's one way of communication, and we're fine with that. But in general, the show was very well received. And again, when it went to Bangkok, it also happened at a time when their parliament in Thailand was introducing a new bill about civil partnership. Because of all these legal movements, our exhibition got a lot of attention locally and also from overseas media. And I suppose it's sort of like we help each other, right? And we also get the attention and also bring a little bit of positive news to what they want to say. And I'm very happy to see that all these legal movements have come to fruitful result, because the same-sex marriage was passed in Taiwan a few years ago. And then in fact, in Thailand, I think June 18th is the big day. It's the date when the final approval for gay marriage will be approved. I keep my fingers crossed.
Lovely. Here's hoping the same happens in India soon.
Ranjana, I often use India as an example too, because people would ask me, Patrick, where do you most want to see your show happen? I say, oh, there's so many places I want to bring them to. And they say, oh, this country would not be possible, that would not be possible. I said, yes, but look at India. Just a few years ago, it was illegal. And then sometime, somehow, the High Court just changed the whole situation. And similarly in Singapore too. So I remain hopeful. I remain positive in the general outlook. I believe that, it's something that I feel that we're on the right side of history and that will be happening in the right direction.
And that hope is what I want to seize on for my last question. I wanted to ask, does art foster a sense of community for you? Does art bring hope?
The answer to both questions are yes, of course, affirmative. Regarding community, I think it fosters a sense of community in two areas, in art community and also in the LGBTQ community. And with the art community, I think, again, I feel very lucky because of what we do. We got noticed, and I've been invited to participate in many committees in these internationally acclaimed institutions like Tate, like Guggenheim, like M+. And I accept it because it aligns with our mission to raise visibility. And I feel that I have a duty to promote art from the queer community to the international institutions. And I think with the queer community, it goes without saying. I often feel that when we do our show, we are reaching out to two primary groups, straight and the queer audience. I hope that the straight community would come and feel that, oh, we have such a rich gay culture, and I hopefully that they would come and see the show and embrace the queer culture as much as we do. And with the gay community, I hope that they come and feel proud of that they're finally able to be themselves in a public institution instead of hiding in the closet. I think it was Gerhard Richter who said art is the highest form of hope. And I certainly agree with that. This is a work by an Indian artist, Balbir Krishan. It's actually titled Before and After Penal Code 3778, showing the difference in the world, and then before and after. Here we have a work by an artist, Isaac Chong, and the work is called Falling Reversely. And actually the work was inspired by these racist attacks on Asians overseas. And Isaac, the artist, would invite a troupe of performers to reenact the violence, this act of violence, and yet they would help each other and support them falling, and which is a way to address the issue that we can collectively do something and turn the really ugly experience into something positive, like a sense of community. And this is a work that was well received in the Venice Biennale, and Sunpride one of the sponsors, one of the donors of this year's Venice Biennale. We participated, and we're very, very proud of what ISAC is doing. We talk about hope, and this is another work that speaks to me about how art can offer hope. This is a work by a Pakistani artist, Salman Toor, who is very well known internationally. And this work was commissioned by the Public Art Fund, and they use it as a way to promote life during COVID. And don't forget, this is a time when everybody has to be staying at home, not seeing friends. And yet Salman paints a painting of giving you a glimpse of a normal social life, while there's like isolation and desolation everywhere. And I believe this work was shown publicly in New York, and it brought hope to many people that, one day all this would end. And in fact, it did.